This week in Longevity Juggernauts Collide, we have two of the OGs in the metabolic modulating arena, the microbiome and cellular senescence. And I bet you wouldn't guess, even if I gave you 100 tries, which one is modulating the other. Well, you actually would probably only need... Either way, the point is, you won't have to, because we have some new, hot off the scientific streets, research to do it for us. Let's go. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftinbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we've got the perfect mixture of scary and smelly, because we are talking about zombie cells, aka senescent cells, and the trillions of microorganisms which happily call our large intestines home, the microbiome. Specifically reviewing some new data highlighting how one may modulate the other in a big longevity promoting way. And if you've been around this channel, these two topics are not new ones. In fact, they're anything but, because they both have some very impactful cellular and metabolic influences. However, this is the first time we're going to be talking about their interplay. Hey, get your mind out of the gutter. This is an educational video, okay? Thank you. And if you're not up to speed on why you should care, here's a quick refresher. Cellular senescence is a state our cells enter when they become damaged. A state in which the cell stops doing normal cell things and stops dividing. This is a protective mechanism to stop the replication of things such as mutated DNA and the onslaught of diseases such as cancer, which is a good thing. However, there's a catch. This type of cell also avoids undergoing any type of repair or programmed cell death, and instead just sits there, disgruntled, wreaking havoc by emitting damage-associated molecular patterns, as well as taking on a senescence-associated secretory phenotype where the senescent cell begins to secrete inflammatory cytokines. And what do these cytokines do, you ask? Well, triggers an excessive immune response, of course, which results in damage to nearby cells, causing them to, drumroll please, become senescent themselves. Yeah. See how this can become problematic? So it's definitely a biological trend you want to try to avoid. One of the main reasons being because it is tightly correlated with age-related inflammation known as inflammaging, as these zombie cells have been observed to grow in prevalence as we age, especially in individuals who are following the modern-day ultra-processed, ultra-sedentary, ultra-sleep and nature-deprived, ultra-stressed, disease-promoting lifestyle, which kind of makes sense when you think of it, right? If you want a deeper dive on this hallmark of aging, including all the ways you can stop it, check out this video in the show notes below where we break it all down. Because we gotta move on to the smelliest place on earth, the microbiome, which is so cool and influential that it has its very own playlist on this channel. I know, big time. The main thing that you need to know about your ecosystem within as it pertains to this video is the fact that these microbes play a critical role in optimizing the function of basically every single bodily system that you have, from key organs like the liver to structural tissue like skeletal muscle and even the brain. Yep. Your 5-pound mushy membrane needs your gut microbes. And although these microorganisms work their magic via several different pathways, one of the most notable is via the synthesis and release of postbiotics, or metabolites derived from microbes fermenting the food we eat or compounds we consume, like medications that our body can't or doesn't often make itself. So yeah, we need those smelly buggers. And these metabolites work their magic by traversing the gut wall and hitching a ride throughout the rest of the body via the bloodstream. One of the most studied and publicized of these metabolites being short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate, which have been shown to have powerful mitochondria enhancing and inflammation reducing effects. Two things that are pretty important when it comes to optimizing present-day health and long-term vitality. Again, we have a whole playlist talking about all the unbelievably cool things that our microbes modulate and how a disrupted microbiome can cause a whirlwind of problems, which I'll link below so you can check it out. Because it's about time we get to the interplay, hey, focus, displayed in this new study. And it hones in on the impact that a certain gut-derived metabolite, Urolithin A, may have as it pertains to our senescent problem. Let's take a look. Researchers out of the Buck Institute for Research on Aging looked to build on previous animal research suggesting that Urolithin A may influence cellular senescence in a positive way. But this time using human cells. To do this, they induced two types of senescence in human lung fibroblast cells, one triggered by a chemotherapy drug and the other induced by cellular division, proceeding to treat both with Urolithin A. And what they saw was interesting, to say the least. First, they observed that the treatment had little to no effect on two of the most popular senescent markers, P16 and P21. Alright, rough start. But good thing that's not the only significant piece of this senescent puzzle. As they looked further, they observed that the treatment significantly reduced the secretion of two major pro-inflammatory senescent factors, interleukin 6 and interleukin 8. As well as the expression of their corresponding genes in both models. Interesting. But, what exactly does that mean? Well, they found that this effect translated to lower levels of something called paracrine senescence, which is when one senescent cell induces senescence in neighboring cells via their secretion of those aforementioned senescent factors. You don't say. The researchers then took this one step further, looking for the mechanisms in which Urolithin A was carrying this out, finding that it significantly decreased the abundance of something called cytosolic DNA floating around the cells, which are fragments of DNA that are supposed to stay in the nucleus or mitochondria, however, escape and raise the inflammatory alarms. And when hypothesizing on why this may be important, the researchers suggest that this may have something to do with Urolithin A's ability to induce mitophagy, a favorite longevity pathway on this channel, which is a process of eliminating unhealthy, damaged, leaky mitochondria, and thus their DNA and free radical leak, a process which may explain the reduction in cytosolic DNA. All in all, the researchers concluded, we discovered that Urolithin A remarkable gut-derived metabolite, significantly suppresses the expression and release of pro-inflammatory senescent factors. This effect is driven at least in part of reducing cytosolic DNA release and dampening inflammatory signaling from the cell. Pretty cool, right? Now, I must remind you that this was an in vitro experiment, meaning conducted outside of the human body. So more research is definitely needed. But this potential relationship is promising, to say the least. One of the main reasons being, at least in my eyes, is because it just so happens we humans can likely sway our odds, likelihood, and probability of producing this senescent fighting compound by the lifestyle that we live. How is this the case, you ask? Well, our lifestyle habits happen to be the main driver in cultivating the composition of our microbiome. What and when we eat, how we sleep, the exercise we do or don't do, the nature we experience, the stress we manage, and the medications or supplements we take all play a big role in nurturing the microbe communities which grow, the metabolites that they produce, and the overall function of our gut wall and gut as a whole. And when those things are in good balance, which is a lot easier said than done, so check out that microbiome playlist, which I will link below for tactical tips and strategies, then it could simply be the case that eating precursors to Urolithin A is all we need to boost its prevalence to a senescent fighting level. Oh, and there's the fact that living a healthy lifestyle decreases the prevalence of senescence simply because there's less dysfunction. So yeah, win-win there. Anyway, back to the precursors. So, What should you eat to naturally boost your levels of this compound? Well, the main precursor is a family of polyphenols called allantogens, which are prevalent in foods such as pomegranates, nuts, raspberries, strawberries, blackberries, and cloudberries. And the more of these foods that you eat, the more prevalent the specific genres of bacteria which produce urolithin A will likely become. Funny how it works like that, right? Feed them and they shall populate. Unfortunately, that happens more often on the flip side. So, yeah. And the data suggests that when this compound, urolithin A, is more prevalent, it could be influencing cellular and metabolic health and thus longevity in a number of different ways, including stimulating the aforementioned mitochondria cleanup, reduction of inflammation, and as we saw today, potentially fighting those zombie age-accelerating senescent cells. So positioning yourself for a healthy constant flow of urolithin A through lifestyle is probably a good idea. That being said, expectations should also be grounded, as eating a pomegranate or a handful of berries every once in a while and living in accordance to that aforementioned ultra-processed Western lifestyle probably isn't going to cut it. So to truly optimize any benefit, lifestyle should be priority number one. Especially because strategies like eating foods simply for urolithin A can be hit or miss, as research suggests that conversion rates for this compound vary from person to person, all the way from extremely high to, well, almost none at all. However, to my point before, this phenomena could be associated with a less diverse, unbalanced Western microbiome, of which, if you improve your lifestyle and eating, you could very well improve your conversion rates. So, if you really want to test this compound out in your longevity protocol, you can also choose to go with a direct supplement. And if you go this route, make sure that the supplement provider has checked off a few boxes. First, being running a clinical trial on their product. Second, using minimal ingredients. And third, following good manufacturing practices, which you should see via a stamp on the product. At the end of the day, studies like this prove once again, that the way you live your life matters more than you could ever imagine, and much more than we can likely scientifically prove at the moment, which is saying a lot. So double and triple down. Own your health, because when you do, you align all these cellular and metabolic pieces for efficient operations, thus feeling effing awesome in the here and now, but also extending this vitality for the long term, which, by my calculations, leaves you with only one logical thing to do now. Declare preemptive war on your senescent zombies within. And the best way to do this is by starting to build your microbe army today. Good fighting.